I'd like to introduce Leah Shaver, President and CEO of the National Transportation Institute.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good morning. It has been a wild, longest, fastest year of my life. I'm going to move around a little bit today because it's early in the morning and I have a lot of pep in my step, and we want you to also. I am really happy to be here. I want to thank everybody at CDLLife. I think you're really going to enjoy the day. If we take away anything from the last 16 months, I hope that we remove the word unprecedented from the dictionary. If there is one thing that added to my angst in 2020, it was hearing that word over and over again as I felt that myself. Does that resonate with anybody else? Yeah. Okay. What's interesting to me, and I think to the folks that are bringing us all together today, is that Q1 of 2020, how many people said, is there really a driver shortage? How many of you were asked that question, asked that question of someone else? And we started the year flooded with supply, coming out of a year where not much impact on driver pay, not experiencing rates and volume that we had experienced in 2018. And, really putting a lot into question, and we're slammed into a pandemic. Everything goes silent. We're fearing for our lives. And it doesn't take long, and there's a surge in a shift in the consumer-driven economy. This Anybody else have regular deliveries from Amazon? We're going to talk about Amazon today. But anybody else feel weird being back shopping? No? Really? It's just me? Okay. There's so many opportunities, and there's a lot of opportunity to make money right now. There's a lot of opportunity for drivers to make money, and not as much interest in what we're used to in terms of drivers being productive, getting out into the market. We have more demand of us as an industry than we have folks to perform these jobs. And so we're going to talk a lot about that in my sesh here. Now, we're back. Are we actually better than ever? That's the question. Does it feel like we're better than ever? Does anybody actually accomplish everything in their day that they are hoping to? Or are you pulled from meeting to meeting to meeting? Are the walls on fire? The ceiling's on fire? Everything's on fire? Does that sound more familiar? Demand has outstripped supply. We're going to talk a lot about driver supply. Together with CDLLife, we've put together an agenda for you that delivers on a lot of the questions that you've been asked, a lot of the questions that you are asking. And, I'm all about finding opportunities. That's my favorite word. I'm all about connecting with people. And I have a lot of ideas that you have considered, that you may have talked about, that you may have suggested yourself. And sometimes when you put me in front of your team, you say to me, but Leah, they heard you, and I've been saying that for a long time. That's going to happen for you a lot today. CDLLife has put together an agenda for all of us where we're saying, if this is the issue, then here's the solution. We want every session for you to have that takeaway. So I hope you find a shiny new takeaway from my session. And I'll tell you, does anybody know the starfish story? So I'm a foster parent, and my husband, I cannot tell you how many times he has said to me, Leah, you cannot save them all. You cannot save everybody. You cannot save the world. And I ask you, why? Who says? You cannot save every driver, and you cannot convince every driver to work for you, but you can try, right? So we're going to talk about a lot of those opportunities. So in terms of my company, we have, for 26 years, benchmarked best practices, pay, programs, anything that it takes to recruit and retain professional drivers. So we look at the experience from before a driver enters the industry, to training, to perks and programs, to owner-operator success, anything that impacts the market. And what impacts driver pay? Demand, supply, turnover, and of course, freight rates. So we monitor all of those elements. We also look at demographics. We introduced technician pay surveys in 2019. We are interested in anything that helps the deficits in the industry grow. We have to talk about driver supply. You've seen this slide. You've read it in the news. If you haven't, in case you haven't, and there are some folks last night that said that they haven't. Before the pandemic, we had a blue-collar labor problem. It was everywhere. We were at record low unemployment. We weren't convincing a lot of people to enter the industry. The folks that we did convince didn't really stay, and they didn't make up for exits. Now, there's a lot of work, and we've talked a lot over the years, NTI has, to the industry about the gap between trucking companies and private fleets and what they make available. Today, we have other new competitors that also offer better pay and schedule. And we're going to talk about those today too. One thing I just want to put out there, these were driver supply constraints before the pandemic. Now we have constraints in every niche of the workforce. Everyone has a now hiring sign on their door. Everyone needs people. I need people. Is anybody else hiring here? Anybody? I mean, I don't suppose I'm in a room full of hiring managers, right? So everyone needs people. It's in all types of work. It's not just restricted to us. So I think I advanced one too many times. I think you took out one of my slides. Okay, I'll just talk to it. It's okay. In terms of the pandemic, I just want to make sure. Yeah, it's gone. In terms of the pandemic, new supply constraints that are really impacting us, the biggest one is, of course, the pipeline. We dried up our pipeline. We shut it down. The experienced recruiting managers, long tenured experienced recruiting managers, we've got a panel of them later today if you're not familiar. They would tell you that the worst thing you can do is to completely halt your pipeline, right? To stop advertising. Even when you think you have enough drivers to meet your need, it's career suicide to shut off the pipeline. How many of us did that? 71% of companies during the pandemic that train halted their training program. So mere months later, we were suffering with very few folks in the pipeline. The other thing is that schools are still at least 30 to 50% lower in output than they usually are. So that will continue. The other thing that really impacts our pipeline, and we'll get this edited slide back into the deck and out to you, is, of course, the Drug and Alcohol Clearinghouse. We're down 56,000 drivers to date, and that data is always about 6 weeks behind. How many of you can bring a driver back to work after they have failed a drug screen? Look around. Is it really no one? I think it's no one. Is there one? There's two? There's two people in the room. So when you see in the media that we're losing drivers every day and only a small percentage of them have requalified, does it really matter? They can't work for you. You know, they may be, we only know two people that they can work for. Okay. So all the while, we've got this demand and we've got a surge in local jobs. And we've been saying this for months, but now the data really supports that. We have a surge in local jobs and every other niche of the industry is way down. Way down. And how many opportunities do we have? Way more than we can fill. So the data does support that. We work with some universities to pull some government data, other data that, we're working with fleets, folks that employ professional truck drivers. We work with universities to pull some of that public data. And one of them just put out the chart supporting, that's Michigan State University. The other thing is that we know local and final mile jobs surged during the pandemic. Do you know that there are twice as many local and final mile opportunities in the industry today than there were a few years ago? Twice as many. 1 million, by the way. So I don't know what number you had in your mind, but there are 1 million jobs that do that type of work. Now, why is that important to you? First of all, it's another driver supply constraint if you don't do that type of work. The other thing is they offer that work-life balance that we're always talking about is a cultural gap. It's something that we just can't deliver in so many of our jobs. And in the jobs that we can, those folks are surging. Dedicated, private fleet, local driver jobs. Driver supply constraints that we've talked about to you for years, and they are literally thriving today. And I want you to know they are all looking for people. They are all growing. They are raising pay. They are increasing the opportunities. You've seen the media releases. I can tell you long before you knew they were hiring, long before they made it public, it was very clear, and they were pulling more folks out of the market. Now, the last thing I want you to know about them, are they attractive to young people? Yes, they are. Is irregular route, regular route, regional work, work that keeps someone away from home, work that has an activity-based pay model, work that requires you to do more if you want to earn more, is that attractive to a young person? It is not. Is it something that's understood by some of our older folks that have long been in the industry? It is. They feel like you need to do that. They feel like it's necessary. They feel like it's appropriate. And maybe it was. But the question that you're going to hear over and over again today is it still? Now, we talked about the consumer-driven economy and courier work. The other thing that is surging is owner-operators. Speaking of couriers, flatbed carriers, tanker carriers, when they had a drought of work opportunities during the pandemic, who did they haul for? Okay, I'll tell you, it was Amazon. It was Amazon. So Amazon is a household name. It's cool. We all use it. We have the app. I can order stuff on my phone when I'm not at home. I can still get deliveries. I can still run my house. We're working from home and we can't leave the house and we're ordering. They're surging. They have all these work opportunities. They also used our drivers. We literally gave them our drivers to haul for them during the pandemic. So when new owner operators are entering the market, who are they asking about where to work? Other drivers. And what do other drivers, contract drivers, what do they suggest to them? Amazon. Why? Because they make it really easy to go to work. They make it really easy for the small business owner to bring their capacity into the market. Another headline, shortage of fuel by summer. Is this going to happen? I guess we're almost to summer, but you get it. Why would that happen? In terms of the pipeline, and this is something that comes up on a daily basis with a more specialized company. If you have higher requirements, if you cannot hire a new entrant with no experience, if you require any type of experience or specialized nature to the work that you have to fill, how many people, by the way, say from leadership, but I want experienced drivers, that would be better? I mean, who doesn't, right? But in terms of the lead funnel, applicants without experience in the data at the fleets that we talk to outnumber the other drivers 3-1. Once they start working, there's minimal options for them to get to work and go into training. They're difficult conditions. And as soon as they hit that 3-month mark, if they've been in any kind of database that you pulled them from, they're also being recruited by you and you and you and you. 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 1 year, name your number. For a lot of smaller companies, it's 2 years. But the bottom line is they're pulled as soon as they have that minimum level of experience. So in terms of the lead funnel that CDLLife is going to talk about later today, the more they get experience, the more that they're in a specialized market, the fewer applicants you have to work with. The higher the wages, by the way, the more competitive, the more hungry they are for data, the more they need to market. So many opportunities here. By the way, who's the most valuable driver in the United States today? You got it, baby. Okay, the story of a student to experienced driver. In terms of earning timeline, I'll tell you that the greatest opportunity for us as an industry is with students. You're gonna hear us all talking about this a lot. In fact, we have a whole session on students, but in early days, and there are exceptions to this is just averages. In very early days, at a large company that's doing training, at a mid-sized company, at a small company, it doesn't matter. We still wear this badge that says we need to earn our stripes, earn our keep, get that experience. The pay is Starvation mode. 28 grand annualized in the very beginning. It goes up, and companies are getting better at increasing pay over time. But in those very early days, whether it's $600 a week, $800 a week, $900 a week, it doesn't matter. In the end, they're hungry. They're getting meals from their trainer. They're away from home. There's a culture shock. There's a body shock and emotional shock. There's so much opportunity in the early days. And then we go to the early driver, new entrant wages. 1 year where life is getting a lot better. 3-year experience. We graduate into training, to getting hazmat, tanker, team. The pinnacle of all pinnacles is in private fleet work. Private fleet work. And I'll talk more in detail about that. So more on students. How many are hearing about, I want to work for a smaller company, or that they have almost like, mega carriers, like a dirty word when I talk to drivers on the radio. It's terrible. And we all know there's so many things that a mega carrier can offer that are amazing in terms of experience, in terms of training, in terms of benefits, in terms of freight reliability, but they miss that connection, that human connection. And where the human connection and the experience that they're looking for from you comes out, when we ask them, how can they do that? How can they serve you more respect? It's in the paycheck. Not literally just in the number, but in consistency. And I'll talk more about that. Now, turnover is high with new entrants. Private fleets are putting in programs, dock-to-driver programs. These are surging across the country. You are going to see more demand from private fleets. You will see private fleets buying trucking schools. This is huge companies that also happen to employ truck drivers that can deliver a work-life balance experience that we have been talking about and struggling with for the 20 years that I've been in the industry. Now, lifestyle improvement is our problem. It is not their problem. Ask them. That's not my statement. That's their statement. Younger people expect you to make the adjustments to the job. It is up to us to think about, how can we change our operational strategy? How can we change what we offer in terms of a rewarding and secure career choice for a younger person? The other thing is career path. I mapped out for you financially what a career path can look like, but you would be the first to tell me, especially in a year where pay isn't really moving, you'd say, it's not all about the money, Leah. Well, of course it's not. To a young person, it's about career path. It's about knowing exactly where you're headed and what that's going to look like. So elevating your workforce to meet your needs, your operational needs, your team needs, your hazmat needs, your tanker needs, these all translate into the paycheck, and they are a career path that's defined by us. It's not traditional. It's not the same that we experienced, but it's ours, and it's true to our industry. It's in deliverables. We're just not talking about it in terms of pathway, in terms of accelerating. Drivers are also really hungry to do more, to get better, to grow their experience, to be more involved in interacting with your customers, with you. They want computer skills. As they're aging in the workforce today, I cannot tell you how many senior drivers, and I mean senior citizens at this point, that feel they have so much to offer. And of course, what's the first question that we ask them? Do you have any computer skills? Can you do a job that supports us? We know they can dial for dollars, right? We can get them on the phone. They can talk to potential drivers for us, but they wouldn't be able to enter anything into your applicant tracking system. And if they did, they wouldn't be winning that race that I talk to you about all the time about speed to lead, right? So it's not really going to meet that gap. So in any way that you can elevate your workforce by adding skills and support, and speaking of support, collaboration. CDLLife does meetups, right? They're really popular. Folks want to network. What were you most excited about to be here for? First of all, I'm looking at your faces, not through a computer screen. It's a lot. I'm used to looking at myself. Maybe one of you, maybe a group of you, but they feel the same way. They want to network. They want to interact with each other. They're doing it in the largest social community for professional drivers, right? They want to do it with you and for you as well. So let's talk about communication and demographics. We have 4 generations of workers in the trucking workforce right now. We've got baby boomers, and these numbers, unfortunately, are before the pandemic. I think they're going to shake out a little bit differently, and I'll tell you where I think the adjustments are going to be. But what I want you to focus on is how each of these generations communicate and what they're expecting from you. I told you, baby boomers, they want to interact. They want to be in person. They want to have coffee. They want you to call them. They complain to me that you send them a message or that you can only engage with the driver manager electronically. They want a phone call. They want to interact personally. And we've gotten so used to text message. I mean, do you answer your phone when it rings? Text me, bro, right? They're not into that. That's not their jam. They also want experience recognized in the paycheck, which is why historically we still get asked by leadership. We still, as long-term, pay and benefit strategists, think that we rely more on experience. I'm going to show you that we don't, but that's the culture that we have. That's the mentality of the carrier. Now, Gen X, the largest part of our workforce. And what do they want to do? And why is CDLLife so big? Because the largest part of our workforce wants to engage. They want to engage with you. They want to engage with each other. They want to engage on social media. They want to mentor. They want to connect with other people. Baby boomers are not interested in your millennials. I promise you. They are not interested. They cannot understand or fathom the gaps in skill set, in communication level with the younger generation. But Gen X does, and they want to. They value opportunity. So put those opportunities in front of them. Now, the smallest, really active workforce that we have, I'll talk about that in the real smallest numbers, Gen Z, but in terms of our smaller group, this is very dynamic. How many conversations did we have a few years ago about millennials and how they communicate? Do you remember that? Well, it's real. It is a real problem. They are very loyal, but they have different expectations. They want that career path articulation. They want to know what is the next step. They want to take the next step with you, but they need to know what it is, and it needs to be identified for them. And I don't mean in response to a problem. They need to see this mapped out. That goes for Gen Z as well. They communicate in a variety of ways, but most of all, they value recognition. So when we talk about reporting back to them how they did on a regular basis, we mean weekly. When it comes to identifying top performers and folks in your fleet, you don't only want to look at your longest, most senior drivers, those million-mile drivers. The same thing doesn't resonate with your early drivers. Lastly, we've got Gen Z. Just put them on your do not call list, okay? You're going to get a book on, anybody got kids? I mean, I tell you, my kid literally gets red in the face when I want to have a long conversation, but she will email me a novel. Does that resonate with anybody? I mean, they communicate differently. And so if we're used to dialing those baby boomers, if we're used to the baby boomers reaching out to us and saying, I have a problem and I expect you to solve it, we're expecting the same thing from the rest of the folks in the market. They're not going to deliver. Headline, wanted. The world's best truck drivers. In terms of demographics and what we're doing here, we're community. I put that note in your room drop. I want you to know you're going to feel validated today. You're going to feel connected. You're going to be happy to network with other people. This is one of the most rewarding parts of my job is as a common denominator in a lot of relationships, how can I connect you with resources that are an opportunity? So in terms of demographics, I want to look at a couple of opportunities. These are shameless plugs. I don't care. They gave me the mic. The Next Generation in Trucking Association. We've got Don Lefebvre here. He's here. Raise your hand. We've got Jeremy Raymer. Raise your hand. We've got Leah Shaver. Raise your hand. We are putting career technical education in at the high school level. Why? It's not because we think immediately we're going to be flooded in the market with job opportunities for 18-year-olds. We still need the Drive Safe Act to go through. Next Gen is certainly a supporter of that, and we've got board members that are very active in that legislation. But remember that career path slide? Remember in terms of how many people were in the workforce prior to 2020 that are Gen Z is 4%, and that's simply because of regulation. They just weren't available to us before then. We have to create our workforce. It is up to us. And in terms of career technical education, there are plumbing programs across the country. There's woodworking. There's electrician jobs. Being promoted in at the high school level, taken on through career technical education. We are not doing that in trucking. I was in human resources for a long time. When our community high school wanted to do a job fair, and I went to leadership, they were like, why? You can't hire them. No, but we're planting seeds, and that's all I'm doing with you right here. We're planting seeds for the future. We have to promote our workforce, our opportunities. We have a Girl Scout program in the Women in Trucking Association. We're going to give you every single material you need to make for a successful event. All you need to do is show up with a truck, because they're going to wear out the horn. I promise you, they did. They will wear out the horn. They will be really excited about it. They are going to be gleefully excited to go in and out of the truck. I even had one kid that went in over and over and over again, and the little girl pointed to me and she goes, her dad's a lawyer. She's never seen anything like this before. It was pretty funny. It's a very rewarding opportunity, but it also reflects to you, to your company, to your people, that you are planting seeds for the future, that you believe that there are opportunities in the industry for women, not just in trucks, but supporting trucks, celebrating truck drivers, encouraging them, removing their obstacles. I'll get to that in the next slide. The other thing is, you want more amazing drivers? You have them. You have them, and they are disqualifying every day. Every day, you are losing people to medical disqualification. They are unhealthy, they are older, they have conditions that they're not managing, and you are losing them. They are in your midst already. You can support them. You can work with folks that make sure that they get certified and stay certified, but also that they have the encouragement and the coaching that we all benefit. Anybody ever worked with a trainer? I was with mine at 5 a.m. yesterday morning. We love encouragement, right? We need coaching. Drivers need that too. They also need to connect with people. So Ellen's here. I'm here. Sorry about that. We both serve on the advisory board for Fit to Pass. We can talk about it. But the bottom line is, you want opportunities for your drivers to be educated on their opportunities to stay in the industry, because you're going to need them for quite a while. So let's talk about women. I serve on the board of directors of the Women in Trucking Association. Ellen is right up front here. I also chair the membership committee. I've been on the board for 5 years. And during that time, we have focused very much on our mission and growth. And today, we are also very focused on drivers. Why? Because in your companies, when you provide data to us, you tell us we have more demand to come join our company than we have women who can train those women. Now, you might say to me, a man can train a woman as well. They can, but not every woman wants to be in the cab of a truck overnight with a male. Not every woman is comfortable with that. Frankly, not every man is. I mean, we bring a lot, right? We bring a lot to the show. Women are risk averse. We stay longer. We take a lot of time to make decisions. And so we want, as a trucking industry, we want to be able to keep them, but there's a severe shortage of women trainers. So elevate the women that are in your midst. Tell them it's special. Tell them it's unique. The specific need that we have of them to train new drivers and join. Now, the other thing about women is that you might say, it's really easy for a woman to enter the industry. Sure, it might be, but there's also limitations. Remember, we don't have enough women to train them. It's a male-dominated industry. They get a lot of attention when they pull into the lot, and even more when they are backing. The highest pressure moment, they get a lot of attention. It's tough on them. The last thing is that in terms of your membership to Women in Trucking, supporting our mission, sure, that's part of it. There's also partnership, and there's more involvement. I said to you today, I chair the membership committee. Raise your hand, Rachel. She'll tell you it's a good experience. We've got some other members. Rachel, another member of the membership committee. Wendy. So in any event, we want your participation, but we're also doing a lot to support you and to support more women in the industry. And when I say it's challenging, I tell you that these are the things that we have to develop in answer to the concerns in the market. Okay. I really want to talk about guaranteed pay. How many minutes do I have left? Oh boy. We do want to get to your questions. The good news is I'm staying. So if we lose out on time, I'm sticking around. But these are the elements that drivers complain about the most, and they have had the least activity. I'm going to focus most on guaranteed pay, and probably detention. But in terms of unpaid, unproductive time, this is the biggest driver of turnover in your company. And also the slowest to move in terms of pay attributes over the last 5 years. Now, Travis asked me, and we agree, are recruiting advertisements contributing to our turnover? We already know the answer, right? We know the answer. But why do we think that? When we look at turnover, and when I talk to companies every day, they say to me, if I could only keep them 30, 60, 90, 120 days, it varies by company. Pick your number. Everybody's got a number in the room, right? The largest amount of turnover happens in those early days. You can see it varies by company, but it very much speaks to that operational gap. Operations says, this is the job, this is what it's going to be. I need 50 drivers by Monday. And then you bring in, well, today maybe 10 drivers, but in the past, maybe a little bit more. And the job delivery isn't exactly what they pitched. And what does the driver say? Your recruiter's a liar. Did they actually lie? Probably not. Was there a knowledge gap between what the outcome of the job was supposed to be and what we sold in the ad? Probably selling in the ad the 90th percentile. When we look at your data, your new drivers that leave you, typically in their early days, made at least, on average, 23.9% less than your full year drivers. Can you say guaranteed pay? Come on, guaranteed. Okay, all right. It's still early. So we did a pay study. It's not going to rock your world. Let me rock your world. When it comes to turnover, the lower the pay, the higher the turnover. Did I rock your world? I'm going to rock your world again. It rocked my world. I got really excited talking to Jeremy about this yesterday. I read a pay study that just came out on the plane. It was with Penn State University, Colorado State University, and the University of Arkansas. The pay study says that when it comes to turnover, pay volatility is the biggest driver. Now, in terms of timing, you get 1 week from the time that a driver experiences the emotional shock of missing out in a large way on pay. You have 1 week to make it good before they're thinking about leaving and making some decisions. They're looking at jobs. They're calling people that have called them before. You have to come back from that quickly. Does that sound like a lot of pressure? The other thing the pay study said is that the largest turnover and highest numbers, I was on the right side, same as our study. It's in the lowest pay and the highest pay volatility. That's where turnover intersects the highest. Next to that is when the pay is just at average and experiences pay volatility. So if you are an average payer, if you pay at median level or below, then you are going to have any kind of shock to the driver is going to lead to turnover. The last thing is, why do our experienced drivers stay longer? Is because the highest pay and that cushions the blow for pay volatility. This isn't in necessarily just the rate per mile, by the way. It's in the regular deliverables that we're providing to drivers. You're going to see charts like this from CDLLife. This is the highest demand data that we get in terms of driver wages and also where we see pay influence the most. So I'm guessing that these markets line up pretty similarly with what you see in terms of difficulty with driver supply. We think we're going to land about 8% by the end of the year. Pay is expected to still go up again next year. Why? Because There's a lot of goods being bought. There's a lot of money being spent, and trucking is going to stay busy for quite a while. Any little starfish that I threw out today in terms of driver supply and driver retention, pick a few of them and you'll make an impact. Retention is the new recruiting. Rachel asked me, are we going to have enough on driver retention? I could talk to you about driver retention for hours, but it goes into a lot of different areas in general, in your communication, in how you reflect your pay program, not just in putting the burden on the driver to impact their paycheck, and lastly, in meaningful adjustments, in making meaningful statements to your people that genuinely supports and celebrates what they do every day, how much you need them, how much you need their friends and their brothers and their sisters, okay? Genuinely supporting, communicating with your customers their pain points, what their needs are, what their challenges are, and what your expectations are of the experience that isn't just on your shoulders to deliver to them, but for them as well, because we got the goods there, and now they need human accommodations on site at the facility, but even more importantly to them, just get them off your property, right? Get them moving quickly and eliminate that time. There's some driver feedback in my slides. The bottom line is a key thing that comes up from drivers regularly to me is being micromanaged. We're using a lot of technology, right? Being micromanaged, the unique needs of women, the high demand of teams, and advocacy. Hold yourself at the same expectation that you hold your drivers to. Last thing, you guys. This has been a really challenging year for all of us and also for your team members. So for all of the incentives that you're doing to have them be in touch with leads, to get, to win the race of speed to lead, don't underestimate the emotional toll of what everyone has been through over this time, and going from a pandemic, living in fear, working from home and being isolated, dealing with other very polarizing conditions, not just in terms of a pandemic, but politically, socially, mask theories, etc. These are all very challenging. So equip your recruiters with the tools that they need to be successful. And that doesn't mean technology or, some flexibility, et cetera. It also means understanding of the real job, understanding of your operation, understanding of what your needs are and where you're succeeding and where you need more help. And they will want to rise up as well. And the last thing is have them talking to your drivers, working your network. In terms of driver referral programs, they are not successful if they're not engaging with everyone.